The rain started an hour before I reached the station. It wasn't in the forecast. My windshield wipers thumped a steady, mocking rhythm as I navigated the gravel service road that switchbacked up the eastern slope of the Cascades. The pine trees closed in, their trunks dark and streaming. The hiring officer in Seattle had been brisk. Remote observation post, he'd said. 6-month contract, triple the standard GS pay grade, solitude required. They'd emphasized that last part, studying my file, my quiet discharge from the Coast Guard, the medical leave, the gap in my resume that smelled of debt and regret. I'd signed everything without reading the fine print. I needed the money and the silence. The station appeared around a final bend, a 2-story concrete block structure, utilitarian and gray, clinging to a rocky outcrop. A tall latticework tower rose from its roof, bristling with anemometers, satellite dishes, and other instruments I couldn't name. A single metal door faced the road. Behind the building, the land fell away into a steep, fog-shrouded valley. It wasn't a welcoming place. It was a bunker. A man was waiting under the narrow eaves out of the rain. He was maybe 60, with a close-cropped gray beard and the worn, patient look of a career civil servant. He wore a dark green Forest Service fleece. He didn't offer his hand. "Archer?" he asked. I nodded. "I'm Garrett, supervisor. Come inside. Your gear can wait." The interior was a time capsule of government-issue furniture and analog technology. The main room was a dispatch and operation center. A large wooden desk dominated the space, covered in logbooks, radio equipment, and a single, bulky computer monitor. Banks of older instrumentation lined one wall. Barometers, thermographs, wind speed recorders with their pens tracing slow lines on rotating drums. A bank of monitors showed grainy black and white feeds from exterior cameras. One was aimed down the service road, one at the tower, one at the tree line to the north, and one at a small, shed-like structure about 50 yards to the west. Everything was clean, organized, and deeply worn. "Shift is 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., Garrett said, his voice flat. "You'll be alone. My shift ends when yours begins. You have 2 tasks. First, maintain the continuous meteorological log. The system is mostly automated, but you manually verify readings every hour, on the hour, and note any discrepancies. The logbook is here." He tapped a thick, leather-bound volume on the desk. "Second, you are the regional relay for emergency forestry traffic. Channel 6. You acknowledge, you log, you coordinate if needed, but you do not engage in chatter. You monitor Channel 12 for your own check-ins." "Check-ins?" "With me, at 9 p.m., midnight, 3 a.m., and 6 a.m. You will radio me on Channel 12. I will be at home 15 miles down the mountain. If you miss a check-in by more than 5 minutes, I will assume a breach has occurred and will initiate protocol. Do you understand?" "A breach of what?" He ignored the question. He walked to a metal cabinet bolted to the wall near the door. He produced a key from his pocket, unlocked it, and swung the doors open. Inside, on the left, were shelves of supplies, batteries, first aid kits, bottled water, MREs. On the right door, fastened with clear laminate, was a single typed page. "This is your primary directive," Garrett said. "You will read it. You will memorize it. You will not deviate from it. Your predecessor, Lynn, was very thorough. She left this updated. It is the only thing that matters between sunset and sunrise." I stepped closer and read. "Station Alpha 7, standing orders, revised by Dispatcher Lynn, October 2023. 1. All exterior doors are to be locked at sunset. The locks are checked by hand, in this order. front door deadbolt, front door handle lock, equipment shed padlock. This takes approximately 90 seconds. Complete it before full dark. 2. After sunset, you will not open any door or window for any reason. If you require air, the climate control system is sufficient. 3. The exterior cameras are to be monitored, but not obsessively. A glance every 15 minutes is adequate. Do not watch any single feed for more than 30 consecutive seconds. 4. If you observe a figure on the service road camera, note its distance from the station. If it is beyond the second switchback, approximately 200 yards, ignore it. If it is inside that point, turn off the monitor for exactly 5 minutes. Do not look at that feed again until the 5 minutes have passed. 5. The tree line camera may show movement. This is normal. If the movement resolves into a recognizable human shape that approaches within 10 yards of the tree line, you will activate the exterior security light mounted on the northwest corner of the building by pressing the red button marked perimeter on the desk console. The light will run for 3 minutes. You will not watch it through the camera. You will turn the monitor off until the light cycle completes. 6. Between the hours of 2:10 a.m. and 2:20 a.m., you will cover the north-facing window in the upstairs sleeping berth with the provided aluminum shutter. It must be fully secured by 2:10. It must be removed no earlier than 2:20. The timing is critical. 7. You will perform an inventory of the supply cabinet at exactly 1 a.m. and again at 5 a.m. Count every item. Note any discrepancy, no matter how small, e.g., 1 missing battery, 1 opened but unused MRE, in the logbook. Do not use any supplies from the cabinet between these counts unless it is a life or death emergency, as defined in the emergency protocols. 8. The radio is your lifeline. You will respond only to calls on Channel 6 that begin with the proper call sign, Alpha 7. You will never respond to a call on any other channel, even if it uses your name or a familiar voice. Channel 12 is for scheduled check-ins only. 9. If you hear knocking, do not acknowledge it. Do not approach the door. If the knocking mimics the pattern of a known person, e.g., Garrett's 3 quick, 2 slow, you will go to the sink in the small kitchenette and run the cold water for 60 seconds. 10. If the power fails, you will immediately cease all activity. Sit in the chair at the main desk. Use the handheld flashlight, always kept on the desk, to illuminate the radio and the clock. Do not move until power returns or until sunrise, whichever comes first. 11. The equipment shed is off limits after dark. The camera feed for it is for observation only. If the shed door appears open on the camera, do not attempt to close it remotely or comment on it over the radio. Note it in the log and move on. 12. You are to take your meal breaks at 8 p.m., 11 p.m., and 4 a.m. You may consume only food you have brought with you or food from the small refrigerator. Do not, under any circumstances, consume any food or drink that appears in the station that you did not bring or that is not part of the standard inventory. This includes coffee if you did not brew it yourself. 13. At 3:30 a.m., you will conduct a perimeter check via the cameras. This should take no more than 4 minutes. You will verbally describe what you see on each camera into the log recorder. You will not comment on anything that seems unusual. Simply describe, for example, service road clear, tree line stable, shed door closed, tower nominal. 14. Before sunrise, you will complete the end of shift log entry. You will not mention anything from the standing orders. You will note only meteorological data, and any legitimate forestry traffic. At 7 a.m., Garrett will arrive. You will say only shift complete. He will say acknowledged. You will then depart. I read it twice. The clinical specificity was more unnerving than any vague warning. What happens if I break a rule? Garrett's expression didn't change. Then you will have breached containment. The contract you signed indemnifies the service from any resulting disability or disappearance. Lynn was meticulous. She lasted 3 years. The person before her, Mitchell, lasted 6 months. He took a can of soda from the fridge that wasn't his. We found him at the tree line at dawn. He tried to crawl back. His fingers were dug into the dirt, 6 inches deep. He was repeating the call sign for Alpha 7. He was in a hospital for a week. He doesn't speak anymore. He said it like he was reading a weather report. And you, how long have you been doing this? 12 years, because I follow the rules. Do you have any operational questions? Not philosophical ones, operational. I looked back at the list. The 2:10 a.m. window. Why? The amendment binder will clarify some of the whys, but only as they pertain to procedure. For now, the reason is because between 2:10 and 2:20, the conditions outside that window are not compatible with human perception. The shutter is made of a specific alloy. It reflects. That's all you need to know. He showed me the rest of the station, the kitchenette with its old refrigerator and microwave, the small cold bathroom, the upstairs sleeping berth, a Spartan room with a cot, a locker, and the north-facing window. The shutter leaned against the wall beside it, heavy and cold to the touch. He pointed out the red perimeter light button, the locker where I'd store my personal gear, the exact spot on the desk where the flashlight must always remain. Your first shift starts tonight, he said finally, handing me a key ring. 12 keys, count them. The brass one is for the front door. The steel one with the square teeth is for the supply cabinet. The small silver one is for your locker. The rest are for instrument panels you shouldn't need to access. Do not lose any of them. Do not go key hunting in the night if you drop one. Leave it until sunrise. He pulled on a raincoat. I will be on Channel 12 for your check-ins. Do not be late. Good luck, Archer. He left. I heard the deadbolt turn from the outside, a final, unsettling verification. I was alone. I counted the keys. 12. I placed the flashlight on its marked spot. I checked the time. 4 hours until sunset. 4 hours to pretend this was a normal job. The first night was an exercise in controlled terror. Sunset was a gradual graying of the world, the valley swallowing the light. At the appointed time, I went outside. The air was bitingly cold and smelled of damp pine and something else, a faint, coppery tang. I locked the doors in order: deadbolt, handle, shed padlock. 90 seconds exactly. I came back inside as the last gleam of violet faded from the western sky. I locked the inner deadbolt. The station felt like a ship plunging into deep water. The anomalies began subtly. At 8:47 p.m., during my first scheduled meal, I saw a flicker on the service road monitor. A dark shape, about the size of a man, standing just beyond the second switchback. My throat went dry. Rule 4. It was beyond the 200-yard point. I was to ignore it. I forced myself to look away, to take a bite of my sandwich. When I looked back 30 seconds later, it was gone. A trick of the light, I told myself. A deer. The 9 p.m. check-in with Garrett was brittle. Alpha 7, evening check-in, I said, my voice too tight. Acknowledged, Alpha 7. Status. His voice was crackly with distance. Nominal, all systems green. Proceed, next check-in at midnight. The next few hours passed with a tense regularity. I made my hourly log entries. The wind was picking up, a steady moan in the tower guy wires. At 11:20, the tree line camera showed movement, blurry, shifting shadows. Then, for 3 consecutive frames, it resolved. A tall, thin silhouette, standing perfectly still at the edge of the pines, 9 yards out. It had no face I could discern, just a darker blotch where a head should be. My hand hovered over the red perimeter button. I pressed it. A harsh white light flooded the northwest corner of the building on the monitor. I turned the screen off. I sat in the silence, listening to my own heartbeat, counting the 180 seconds. When I turned the monitor back on, the figure was gone. The light was off. The log entry read, 11:20 p.m., perimeter light activated per protocol, 3-minute cycle completed. I was shivering, but not from cold. The midnight check-in passed. The 1 a.m. inventory was a blessing, a concrete mathematical task. 48 bottles of water, 36 MREs, 24 packs of batteries, a medical kit, sealed, everything accounted for. I wrote the count in the logbook with meticulous care. Then 2 a.m. The dread was a physical weight. At 2:05, I went upstairs. The north window was a black square, reflecting the dim room behind me. The shutter was heavier than it looked. I maneuvered it into place, aligning the bolts with the slots mounted in the wall. It clicked home with a solid, final sound at 2:09. I stood there in the sudden, absolute darkness, my ear near the metal. From outside, through the thick alloy, I heard a sound, not the wind. It was a slow, deliberate scraping, like something large and hard being dragged across the concrete foundation of the station. It made one complete circuit. From the northwest corner, to the north wall, to the northeast, then back along the south side, which had no windows, and around to the west, a perfect circle. It took exactly 10 minutes. At 2:19, it stopped. I counted the seconds. At 2:20, I unbolted the shutter and lifted it away. The window was just a window again, showing only black. My reflection was pale and wide-eyed. I went downstairs, my legs weak. The 3:30 a.m. perimeter check was an exercise in monotone. Service road clear, tree line stable, shed door closed, tower nominal. The shed door, I noted, was slightly ajar, a 2-inch gap of deeper black. Rule 11, I noted it in the log and moved on. At 4 a.m., as I ate an apple, there was a knock at the front door. 3 quick, 2 slow. Garrett's pattern. My blood froze. I sat perfectly still. The knock came again. Tap, 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 tap. It wasn't Garrett. Garrett was 15 miles away. He wouldn't knock. He had a key. But the mimicry was perfect. I remembered Rule 9. I walked to the kitchenette on unsteady legs, turned on the cold tap, and watched the water swirl down the drain for 60 seconds. The knocking continued, matching its rhythm to the sound of the running water for a few beats, then fell silent. When I turned off the tap, the silence was deafening. The 5 a.m. inventory was identical to the one at 1 a.m. Nothing missing. The 6 a.m. check-in was a formality. My voice was a ragged whisper. Garrett simply acknowledged sunrise was a slow, gray infiltration. At 7 a.m. exactly, a key turned in the lock. Garrett stepped in, smelling of cold air and diesel. He looked me over, noted the dark circles under my eyes, the way my hands were clasped to keep them from shaking. Shift complete, I croaked. Acknowledged, he said. He stepped aside to let me pass. I fled to my truck, I didn't sleep well that day in the cramped motel room down in the valley. I dreamed of circling footsteps. The second week settled into a grim routine. The fear didn't leave, but it compacted, becoming a hard, manageable lump in my chest. I followed the rules with robotic precision. The anomalies continued, each night a variation on a theme. The figure on the road, always just beyond the second switchback. The shapes in the tree line. The shed door was open more often than not. I stopped questioning it. The knocking came twice more, never with the same pattern. Once, it was a child's frantic, pleading rhythm. The running water worked each time. I found Lynn's amendment binder. It was in the bottom drawer of the desk, tucked under spare log sheets. It was not part of the official briefing. It was a personal notebook, its pages filled with tight, precise handwriting. Amendments and clarifications. Personal log, Lynn. 1. Rule for amendment. The figure on the road will sometimes appear to be waving. It is not waving. Do not interpret it as a signal. 2. Rule 5 clarification. Recognizable human shape includes shapes that are almost human. If it has 4 limbs and a head, activate the light. Do not wait for finer details. 3. The inventory is not just about supplies. It is a calibration exercise. The act of counting focuses your perception on the inside. It reinforces the boundary. If you lose count, start over. Do not estimate. 4. The voice on the radio may use yesterday's call sign or weather code. It may sound like Garrett with a cold. It may use your first name. Only respond to the exact correct call sign and code for the current day. The daily code is written on the whiteboard by the radio at the start of each shift. Today's code is Pine 7. 5. If you feel an overwhelming urge to look out a window, particularly the small one in the bathroom, you must first put on the pair of smoked glass goggles located in the supply cabinet, top shelf, left side. Wear them until the urge passes. 6. The scraping you hear during the 2:10 a.m. window is not against the foundation. It is against the air. The shutter creates a boundary it cannot cross. The sound is it testing that boundary. This is normal. Do not be alarmed by variations in pressure or tone. 7. You may hear footsteps in the upstairs berth when you are downstairs. This is a resonance. Ignore it. Only be concerned if you hear them on your own floor. 8. If you find a personal item that is not yours, a pen, a hair tie, a photograph, place it immediately in the metal lockbox under the desk. Do not examine it. Do not carry it. At the end of your shift, it will be gone. 9. The coffee in the pot may sometimes be fresh and hot when you know you did not make it. Pour it down the sink. Clean the pot. Make your own. 10. You are safest when you are performing a required timed action. If in doubt, check the clock and initiate the next scheduled procedure. Reading it felt like receiving a dispatch from a war I'd just enlisted in. The goggles? I found them. Old, heavy things like a welder might use. I put them back. The lockbox was there, cold and unassuming. The amendments didn't explain the why, but they gave me more how. They made me feel slightly less adrift. Lynn's voice in the notebook was calm, methodical. It helped. Then came the storm. It began on my 17th night. The barometer started plummeting during the evening check-in. "Big low coming in off the coast," Garrett said, his voice tinged with something I hadn't heard before. Urgency. "You'll see high winds, maybe snow at your elevation. Stick to the protocols. I am enacting the emergency protocols as of now. They are in the red folder in the supply cabinet. Read them. Do not deviate." The red folder contained a single sheet. Station Alpha 7 emergency protocols. Storm, extended siege conditions. E1, power loss is likely. When it fails, follow Rule 10. Additionally, you will put on the insulated suit from the cabinet, marked with orange tape. It is lined with the same material as the shutter. You will remain in the desk chair. You may use the flashlight to read this list, but no other light source. E2. All scheduled check-ins are suspended. Radio silence is to be maintained unless you receive a Priority 1 distress call on Channel 6 with the correct storm code. The storm code is written on the back of this sheet. Do not read it until you need to verify a call. E3. The perimeter light system will be on a continuous cycle, controlled automatically. Do not interfere. The monitors will flicker and fail. When they do, turn them off at the main switch. Do not look at static. E4. The scraping during the 2:10 a.m. window will intensify. It may sound like it is on the roof. It is not. The shutter will hold. You must verbally confirm, out loud, at 2:15 a.m. The boundary is secure. Speak clearly. E5. If you hear a voice calling for help from outside, you will acknowledge it only once by saying, "Help is not available at this time." Do not repeat it. Do not approach any door or window. The storm code on the back was a string of numbers and letters. Zulu Echo 93. By 10 p.m., the wind was a screaming entity. The station groaned and vibrated. Snow, heavy and wet, slashed horizontally across the camera views, turning them into swirling gray messes. The power flickered for the first time at 11:17. Each flicker plunged me into utter blackness before the backup systems groaned to life. The temperature in the station began to drop. At 11:45, the main power died and did not come back. The silence was abrupt and total, broken only by the furious howl of the wind. I fumbled for the flashlight. Its beam was a frail, yellow wand. I found the insulated suit, a bulky silver thing that crinkled as I put it on. It was cold at first, then my own body heat warmed it. I sat in the desk chair, as instructed. The beam of the flashlight illuminated the radio, the clock, and the red folder. The clock was battery-powered. It read 11:52. The storm raged. Without the monitors, the outside world was reduced to sound. The shrieking wind, the creak of the tower, the occasional heavy thump of snow sliding off the roof. I followed Rule 10 and E1. I did not move. I watched the clock's minute hand crawl. At 12:30, a new sound cut through the wind. A voice, faint but clear, from the direction of the front door. "Hello, is someone in there? Please, I'm with the survey team. My truck went off the road." It was a man's voice, rough with panic. It sounded utterly, completely real. My hand tightened on the flashlight. E5. I took a breath. "Help is not available at this time," I said, my voice flat and loud in the dark room. "Please, I'm freezing. Just open the door." The voice was closer now, right outside. It was so human. I could imagine his reddened face, his snow-caked jacket. My muscles tensed, wanting to rise to help. But Lynn's words echoed. "You were safest when you were performing a required, timed action." I was performing one. I was sitting in the chair. I did not move. The pleading continued for several minutes, growing more desperate, then turned to sobs, then to a wet, coughing sound. Then it stopped. The only sound was the wind. The clock read 1:17, the inventory time. I hesitated. The rule said to do it at exactly 1 a.m., but the emergency protocols had suspended regular check-ins. Did they suspend inventories? The core rules hadn't been explicitly overruled. The need for a concrete action for counting was overwhelming. It was a rule I could cling to. I stood up. The suit crinkled loudly. I shone the flashlight toward the supply cabinet. I took a step. A floorboard creaked upstairs. Not the wind. A distinct, weight-bearing creak. Then another. Footsteps on the upper floor. Rule 7 from the amendments. You may hear footsteps in the upstairs berth when you are downstairs. This is a resonance. Ignore it. Only be concerned if you hear them on your own floor. These were upstairs. A resonance. I ignored them. I walked to the cabinet, my flashlight beam jumping with my pulse. I unlocked it. I began to count. 48 water, 36 MREs, 24 battery packs. The counting was a lifeline. The footsteps above paced back and forth, following a path from the top of the stairs to the north window and back. They matched my pacing below. Step for step. I finished the count, all accounted for. I closed the cabinet and locked it. As I turned, the beam of my flashlight swept across the bank of dead monitors. In the dark glass of one, I saw a reflection, not of the room behind me, a pale, smudged face peering from over my shoulder. I whipped around, flashlight stabbing the emptiness. Nothing. My breath plumed in the freezing air. A trick of the light, a reflection from within the dead screen itself. I had to assume. I returned to the chair. The clock read 1:41. The footsteps upstairs continued their patient patrol. 2 a.m. The dread was a cold stone in my gut, colder than the air. At 2:05, I climbed the stairs. The flashlight beam made the shadows leap. The footsteps I had heard were silent now. The upstairs was a tomb. The north window was a void. The storm outside made it seem alive, a black mouth trying to swallow the world. I lifted the shutter. It felt heavier in the dark, with only the flashlight clamped in my teeth. I secured it by 2:09. Darkness absolute. The scraping started immediately, but it was different, louder, more aggressive. Not a drag, but a digging. It wasn't just circling. It was focused on the north wall, right where I stood. The metal of the shutter vibrated under my fingertips. A high-pitched whine, like metal stress, joined the scrape. The whole station seemed to shudder. I remembered E4. At 2:15, I spoke, my voice trembling but clear. The boundary is secure. The digging stopped. For 3 seconds, there was silence. Then a single, tremendous thump hit the shutter, a concussive blow that made the bolts rattle in their housings. I stumbled back. Then the scraping resumed, but now it was on the roof. A slow, heavy drag across the shingles, directly overhead. It moved from the north edge to the south, then back. It was testing, searching for a weakness the shutter didn't cover. I stayed there, pressed against the far wall, until 2:20. My hands were numb as I unbolted the shutter and lifted it away. The window was a cataract of driven snow. I went downstairs, my legs like water. The rest of the night was a vigil in the chair. The storm began to abate around 5 a.m. The wind's scream dropped to a moan. The power did not return. At 6:45, the first gray light of dawn seeped into the room. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. At 7:10, I heard the grind of a diesel engine struggling through deep snow. Garrett's truck. He had to use a shovel to clear the drift against the door before he could unlock it. He came in, covered in snow, his face grim. He looked at me, still in the crinkling silver suit, sitting rigidly in the chair, the flashlight dead on the desk. "Shift complete," I whispered. My voice was gone. He didn't say "acknowledged" right away. He looked around, his eyes taking in the room. He saw the supply cabinet, still locked. He looked at the clock. He gave a slow, almost imperceptible nod. "Acknowledged," he said. "Report." I told him. The power loss, the voice at the door, the inventory, the footsteps, the 2:10 a.m. event. I stuck to facts, to procedures followed. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. "You did the inventory during the storm. The core rule wasn't suspended. I needed to calibrate." A flicker in his eyes, something that might have been respect or pity. "The voice outside, did it say anything after you gave the response?" "It stopped." "Good. The storm passed the worst of it over the station. It was concentrated here. That's normal." He said it like commenting on a low-pressure system. "Go, get some rest. I'll handle the damage assessment." There was damage. Sections of the roof were torn away. Deep, parallel grooves were scored into the concrete on the north and west sides, as if made by gigantic, sharp talons. The equipment shed was gone, not damaged, gone. The foundation pad was there, swept clean, no debris. Garrett just noted it in the log. The next week was a slow recovery. The power was restored. New cameras were installed. A crew came and repaired the roof, working with silent efficiency, never asking about the grooves in the walls. They rebuilt the equipment shed in a single day. I returned to the normal, terrifying routine. But I was different. The storm had been a test, and I had passed by clinging to the rules like a monk to his prayers. My fear had crystallized into a kind of grim devotion. I no longer wondered about the nature of the things outside. I cared only about the geometry of my defense against them. Then the rookie arrived. His name was Evan. He was young, eager, fresh out of some community college environmental program. Garrett brought him in at the end of my shift. "Archer, this is Evan. He's shadowing you for 2 nights before taking the South Station. He needs to understand basic protocol." Evan had a quick smile and restless eyes. He looked around the station with open curiosity, not dread. "Wow, this place is old school. Do you really log all that by hand?" Garrett left. I had 6 hours before my next shift to brief him. I showed him the core rules. He read them, his smile fading to a smirk. "You're joking, right? This is some hazing thing. The old hands messing with the new guy." "It's not a joke," I said, my voice flat. "Every rule is here for a reason. Break one and you will regret it." He shrugged. "Yeah, okay, sure. Look, I get it. Isolate post, weird sounds. Your mind plays tricks. It's cool." I tried to impress upon him the seriousness. I showed him the amendment binder. He flipped through it, snorting at the part about the goggles. "Dude, come on. This is like a creepypasta." My patience, worn thin by months of terror, snapped. "Listen, Mitchell, the guy before Lynn, he took a soda that wasn't his. They found him clawing at the dirt, his mind gone. That is not a story. That is a fact in a personnel file. Follow the rules or you will break." He held up his hands, still smiling, but his eyes were wary now. "All right, man, message received. I'll follow the weird rules." His first night shadowing me was a tense ballet. I performed every procedure with exaggerated care, explaining each one. He watched, mostly silent, but I could see his disbelief. At 1 a.m., I made him do the inventory with me. He counted bottles of water with a sigh. "See," I said, "everything accounted for. It reinforces the boundary." "The boundary between what and what?" he asked. "Between in here and out there." At 2:10, I made him come upstairs to watch me secure the shutter. As the scraping started, his smirk vanished. He heard it, the deliberate circling drag. His eyes went wide. What is that? It's normal, I said, repeating Lynn's words. It's testing the boundary. Don't be alarmed by the tone. He was quiet for the rest of the shift, jumping at every normal sound. I felt a grim satisfaction. He believed now. Fear was a good teacher. His second night, he was to shadow me for the first half. Then Garrett would pick him up at midnight to take him to the South Station. The night was clear and cold. The anomalies were mild, a brief shape in the tree line, the shed door open an inch. Evan stayed close, his bravado gone. At 11 p.m., during the meal break, the radio on Channel 6 crackled to life. But it was wrong. The call sign was yesterday's. Alpha 7, this is Forestry Patrol 12, come in. The voice was garbled, almost electronic. Evan looked at me. Aren't you going to answer? No, I said. Wrong call sign. Today's is Pine 7. They haven't used that old sign in weeks. The radio called again, more insistently. Archer, this is Patrol 12. We have an emergency. Require relay. It used my name. My skin crawled. Evan's eyes were huge. They know your name. It's an emergency. It's not real, I said, my voice tight. Rule 8, Lynn's Amendment 4. Do not respond. But what if it is? He pleaded. What if someone's really hurt? Then they will use the correct procedures. We do not deviate. The radio fell silent. Evan shook his head, muttering about responsibility. The tension in the room was thick. At 11:40, he went to use the bathroom. He was gone a few minutes longer than necessary. When he came back, he looked pale. The small window in there. I thought I saw a light down by where the shed was. Rule from the amendments. If you feel an overwhelming urge to look out a window, put on the goggles. He hadn't. Did you look directly at it? Just a glance. It was just a flicker, probably a reflection. I knew it wasn't. A cold certainty settled in me. He had breached, not a major rule, but a subtle one. He had looked without protection. He had introduced a variable. Garrett arrived just before midnight. I gave my shift check-in. Garrett nodded to Evan. Time to go. You'll ride with me to South Station. Evan gathered his coat. He looked relieved to be leaving. As he passed me, he said in a low voice, Sorry for doubting you, man. This place is intense. Just follow the rules at your post, I said. Exactly. He gave a shaky nod and followed Garrett out into the night. I locked the door behind them. The station felt emptier than usual. The rest of my shift was uneventful. But at the 5 a.m. inventory, I found a discrepancy. There were 23 packs of batteries. One was missing. My blood turned to ice. I counted again. And again. 23. One pack of batteries, gone from a sealed box. I had done the 1 a.m. count with Evan. It had been full. In the 4 hours since, one pack had vanished. It wasn't in the main room. It wasn't in the bathroom or kitchenette. It wasn't in Evan's abandoned locker. He must have taken it. A stupid, petty theft. Or maybe he dropped it. But the rule was clear. Note any discrepancy. I wrote in the log, 5 a.m. inventory. One pack of batteries missing from sealed box. All other counts correct. The weight of that entry felt like a confession of failure. At 7 a.m., Garrett returned alone. His face was stormy. Shift complete, I said. Acknowledged. He didn't move. Evan is gone. What? He never arrived at South Station. He vanished from my truck between here and the junction. The passenger door was found open. No sign of him. Garrett's eyes were hard. His last location was here. Did anything happen? Did he break a rule? I told him about the radio call, about him looking out the bathroom window. and about the batteries. Garrett closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, they were full of a weary resignation. He introduced a debt, a small one, a pack of batteries. They collect on debts. They took him as payment in kind. He saw the horror on my face. It's not your fault. He broke the rules. You logged it. That's your job. The log is the ledger. We have to search for him. We will, in daylight. We will find him, or what's left of him, near the tree line. Or we won't find him at all. He turned to leave. Your contract is up in 2 weeks. I suggest you finish it. You've proven you can follow protocol. That's a rare skill. The search that day found nothing. No tracks in the frost. No sign of Evan. It was as if he had never existed. The official report would list him as missing, presumed succumbed to exposure. I knew the truth. He had become an entry in the ledger. My final 2 weeks were the purest form of my duty. I was no longer just surviving. I was maintaining a system. I was a curate tending a dangerous relic. The fear was gone, replaced by a profound, meticulous caution. I followed every rule, every amendment, to the letter. I wore the goggles twice when a sudden, irrational desire to stare out the south window came over me. I placed a single, unfamiliar paperclip I found on the floor into the lockbox. It was gone the next night. The anomalies continued, but they were like weather patterns now, predictable in their unpredictability. On my final night, I performed every ritual with a sense of solemn finality. The last 1 a.m. inventory, the last 2 10 a.m. vigil. The scraping was gentle that night, almost inquisitive. The last 5 a.m. count. Everything was perfect. The ledger was balanced. At 6 a.m., as the first light touched the eastern ridges, I did something not in the rules. I took a fresh sheet of paper from the logbook. I wrote at the top, for the next one. And I began to write. Not just the core rules, but the crucial amendments, the hard-won clarifications. I distilled the terror of the storm into a concise note on Emergency Protocol E4. I emphasized the inventory's true purpose. I warned about debts, about things taken or accepted. I wrote in the same calm, precise tone Lynn had used. It was my baton pass. Garrett arrived at 7. I had my bag packed. The station was immaculate. The logbook was complete, detailing only the wind speeds and barometric pressures. Shift complete, I said. Acknowledged. He held out his hand. I shook it. His grip was firm, dry. You did good work, Archer. Better than most. The silence agrees with you. It's not silence, I said, looking past him at the now benign tree line. It's a very specific kind of noise. I've learned to hear the shape of it. He nodded, understanding. There's a post in Montana, similar. Operational parameters. The pay is better, if you're interested. I was. I had no other home to go to. The world outside the mountains now seemed chaotic, unregulated, full of invisible rules I didn't understand. Here, at least, the rules were written down. I'm interested, I said. I left him the note for the next one, paperclip to the core rules. I walked out to my truck. The morning sun was warm on my face, but it felt thin, insubstantial. I started the engine and drove down the service road. At the second switchback, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The station stood gray and silent against the green mountain. For a second, in the shadow of the tower, I thought I saw a tall, thin figure standing perfectly still on the roof, watching me leave. I did not stop. I did not slow down. I kept my eyes on the road, counting the turns, until I reached the valley floor where the rules were different and far less clear.